Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the Underworld. The Star Wars Underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The Underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the Underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
What's up, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, discussion, and reviews each and every week. And this week on the show, we're going to be breaking down the newest episode of The Mandalorian, The Mines of Mandalore. Also, if we have time, we also have some new updates on the ever tumultuous Star Wars film production landscape and some huge updates about Star Wars Celebration, which is only weeks away. All this and so much more on this episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. Joining me, it is Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, guys? And this week we are going to the lower levels of Mandalore, to a place where we've been expecting for a while, like a place that I honestly thought would happen at the end of the season. I was excited by this episode purely for the fact that we actually ended up on Mandalore within like 5 minutes, and because I was not expecting it to happen this soon in the season. So I'm very happy we got a great episode to talk about. And yes, maybe we've got a lot to cover. I'm not going to promise any news at the end of it, but really not, because we've got so much to discuss just with this one episode. But there is a lot of really exciting and also not exciting stuff happening that's going on in the world outside the Mandalorian, so it's going to be good.
We have like 14 news stories that we didn't get to from last week, plus all the news that happened this week. At some point, probably after Book of Boba Fett and Mandalorian finish, we're going to have to do an episode where we just like rapid fire all 100 news articles that came out during the airing of the two shows.
Bring back the Kessel Run. Anybody know what the Kessel Run is?
In 2 minutes.
Anybody knows what that is? They're like long-time listener / viewer.
So we are down 2 hosts to start the show, but never fear, we have a fantastic replacement here. It is Anna from Tales from Beyond the Galaxy. How you doing, Anna?
I'm doing grand.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's get into some plugs before we start talking about the episode. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to punch that subscribe button, Chewy. If you're watching us live, you can super chat with us. You can also become a channel member, which is the way you can support us if you are not watching live. And if you are listening to us for the first time on your favorite podcast app, don't forget to subscribe over there to get more episodes and leave a review, especially on Apple Podcasts, especially on non-US Apple stores. You can also check out the Star Wars Underworld Discord, where we've got movie nights and game nights and lots of fun stuff. Ben, when is the next event happening on the Star Wars Underworld Discord?
The next event is happening tomorrow night at, I believe, 9 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be playing some more Fall Guys because we haven't done that in a while, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So come over to the Discord game night tomorrow night, Friday, at 9 p.m. Eastern, and then those happen every other week. So if you miss tomorrow night, come back in 2 weeks. We'll have something else planned, a movie night, something. You never know what's going to happen.
That's awesome. And of course, don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network, including the Raeside, Iron Cannon, and Anna's Tales from Beyond the Galaxy. So make sure you check that out. And the community or other features channels tab on our YouTube channel, the Star Wars Underworld's YouTube channel, should have all the other channels listed. So that's an easy way to bounce to the Raeside into Tales from Beyond the Galaxy, or you can just search for it. And then Ion Cannon broadcasts on the same channel that we broadcast. So if you're subscribed here, you're already going to be seeing stuff from
2
Ion
for the
Cannon.
price of 1.
Yeah, that's right. So make sure you check that out. And one last thing, you can check out cultureslate.com/store for this cool Culture Slate shirt that is designed after the Mando logo from season 3. We also have a version from season 1 and season 2, as well as logos from the Bad Batch and lots of other cool Star Wars and Marvel related crossover stuff. So make sure you check that out at cultureslate.com/store. So let's get right into it. Let's get into talking about the Mandalorian season 3, chapter 18, the Mines of Mandalore. I think this is the part where someone reads like a description of what the episode was about.
Well,
I forgot about that.
I don't know if we go a description. I will mention that this was directed by Rachel Morrison and, of course, written by good old Jon Favreau. So yeah, it's we got a different director, but I think Favreau has written every episode this season, so that it'll literally we can just say now everything's written by Jon Favreau. We don't have to mention it again.
That's very, very easy to figure out. That's why they did it. It wasn't because of continuity. It was just because they wanted it easy for podcasters to know what's going on.
They're looking out for us.
That's 100% the reason why. So let's talk about this episode. As always, Ben, let's go to you first. What are your initial thoughts about the Mines of Mandalore?
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed this episode. I mean, no shade to the last one. I like I said last week, I really did enjoy it, but you know, I will still admit it was one of the weakest premieres we've had so far, and it was a different kind of premiere. And I understand what they're doing, but this episode gave me pretty much everything that I wanted. As I said off the top, like just having an episode, like getting right to the point, which is something that I am resistant to in any TV show, and especially this kind of TV show, just kind of holding off, like teasing us with, we're going to do this thing, but you got to wait 8 episodes to get to it. And this season was almost setting up as, oh, Mandalore is the MacGuffin we're going to get to down the line. We have to do all these things. We have to get IG-11. I love the fact that Mando just like forgets about IG-11. This thing is just like, okay, fine, I'm not going to get that droid. So I'll go use another droid. We're just going to go to Mandalore, and we go, and it's great. I will say there's a couple things that kind of I didn't say turn me off, but like some things like I'm not sure, that could have been written a little bit better. There's some clunky dialogue. Let's just be honest. Towards the end of the episode, even though it's great to see some characters, especially Din and Bo-Katan, just play off each other. So yeah, I mean, I think it was an amazing episode. Obviously, a excellent reveal at the end that made me angry. Want to throw something at my TV because I didn't want it to end there. And but that's a sign of a good episode. So I will definitely give this one a thumbs up for now.
That's what we're doing for ratings now. No more scores out of 10. It's just a thumbs
One
up,
thumb up,
thumbs down. Yeah, it was quite the cliffhanger at the end. Anna, what were your initial thoughts after watching this episode?
Oh man, so like when at the beginning when it showed Tatooine, I was like, oh great. Tatooine again. And then Pelimoto and the Jawas are still one of my like favorite things to come out of like the recent like streaming Star Wars. And then obviously like I also did not think we would get into Mandalore as soon as we did. I was like, okay, give me a couple of episodes and then we'll be in Mandalore. And now we're here, and I'm like, we're only on the second episode, y'all.
So much has happened.
And then just Bo-Katan. It was very fitting that yesterday was International Women's Day, and having Bo-Katan just perfect.
Yeah, definitely. I love the adventure of this episode. I loved seeing Mandalore again. I thought that the design of Mandalore in live action looked incredible. Like one of the issues that I've had with the Mandalorian is sometimes they'll go to planets that just look like Earth. Like they'll go shoot in some random spot in California or some random spot in the woods, and it's just like, or the desert, and it's just like kind of confusing because it's like there's all these alien worlds that they could explore. Why are they just copying Earth environment?
Oh, we're going to this strange environment known as Simi Valley.
Exactly. So I'm always kind of a little hesitant whenever they go to different planets and stuff about, you know, what they're gonna look like, and sometimes I'm disappointed. So the fact that not only were they able to go to Mandalore, a planet that we know is not supposed to look anything like Earth because we've seen it in the Clone Wars and various media before, but also the fact that they specifically attempted to make it look as unique as an alien as possible in the live action version. Like I thought it was absolutely incredible, the set design and the landscape design of the planet. So that was just the first thing that got me excited about the episode, is once they got to Mandalore, the whole sequence of like landing through the storm reminds me a little bit of Luke landing on Dagobah through the clouds and the storm there, and then getting there onto the surface. It looked so cool with this like shards of glass looking type thing. And then just going to the abandoned city and seeing that, I mean, that whole thing was just so well designed. It was super cool. So the whole episode had just an amazing environment that it took place in. And so I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know how I feel about this whole kind of like boss concept in Star Wars, where like a lot of Star Wars episodes, both Rebels and Mandalorian, they feel like a video game where there's like a boss. There's like the level and you got to like defeat this and I felt the same way about kind of the story structure of the Mandalorian and Grogu having to defeat this strange alien cyborg character, you know, and the underground of Sundari. So I thought that part of the plot was really kind of basic action adventure, like video game plot. Not a lot of like thought went into it. It was more just action heavy and suspense. But that being said, I thought the visuals were absolutely amazing. I mean, the fact that, you know, you had this like alien creature that was in this like General Grievous like cyborg outfit where like the head was like detachable and it had a body, but then it also could go in this big like mecha suit. Like that reminded me kind of like anime type stories. I thought that was really cool visually and technologically wise. So despite the fact that the plot was very simple of, okay, we just got to defeat this boss and we need help doing it, I thought that visually it was really cool to watch and to watch the action. I thought that was just designed super well from a production point of view. And then the end is the big reveal that we've all been kind of thinking might happen of the mythosaur. Like, oh my gosh, that's pretty wild that we saw the mythosaur coming out at the end, and that was a huge cliffhanger, like you said, Ben. It's like, why did they end it there? Why didn't we get 2 episodes this week? What the heck?
And then if you think back, like they've been seeding this for a while. They've literally been seeding this from the first episode. Queel is like, how can you not freaking ride this stupid, you know, dinosaur with teeth? Your ancestors rode the great mythosaur. And then I think in Book of Boba Fett also the armorer is like, oh, something herald the something about the mythosaur heralded the return of Mandalore or something like that. I can forget the quote, but like they've been seeing this for a while. And just the fact of going into that with both these characters, one who is very, you know, almost, I mean, you could draw so many parallels from Din Djarin to any type of religion. Like he's so into it. And then it's basically like taking an atheist to the Holy Land with Bo-Katan. like she's not into this at all. Like she thinks it's all mumbo jumbo. And now that last shot is her whole world being shattered by, oh, this mythical beast, this thing you've been told all your life was mythical. It's like one of us like going out and just like running into a unicorn or something, or a dragon, and you're like, yeah, of course it's gonna mess up your worldview because you told your whole life they were mythical. Now it's real.
Yeah, my favorite part in there when they're under the water and you can totally like when Bo-Katan gasps, you see all the bubbles just flush out of her helmet. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
that was pretty interesting.
That's a great reveal. Like, just things like they could have easily done something more things, but just the fact that we're getting a mythosaur, like, that's, I know we're jumping to the end of the episode, but who cares? It's just the fact that this thing has been part of Star Wars lore for I don't know how many years now, finally getting, a proper thing in The Mandalorian.
Well, I mean, it's been in the middle of our logo for the entire time. Like, this is, if anyone does not know what our logo looks like, that's our logo. You see the Mythosaur skull in the middle of the W.
What?
So it has been there, and we're finally getting it. So that's pretty cool. So let's go back to kind of like, I don't know. Does anyone have much to say about the Tatooine sequence? Because for me, I mean, it was cool to see the fireworks. That was cool. That's probably the only comment that I have about that.
I know they're in Mos Eisley. I would have been disappointed because I'm like, Boba Fett, come on, give us some Boba Fett.
I thought we were
she
gonna
mentions
get that too.
Boba Fett, but no dice or no chance cubes, as she says. And yeah, there's a bunch of references in there. I'll get to that later. Wink, wink. But I liked that it was brief. Like, I love Peli Motto. I really do, but also we've seen a lot of her.
Yeah.
And I didn't want this season to be, oh, let's check in with everybody we haven't seen since last season. Like, let's do the whole rounds. They did that last episode, kind of, but then this episode, yeah, she's there and she's up to no good as usual for Peli Motto. But then we're on to the meat of the plot, which I really appreciate. I really appreciate just not taking any time. And I appreciate the fact that, because that was one of my bewildering things about the last episode. It's like, why does he need IG-11? What's going on? Like, he has other droids. And then, yeah, he just grabbed another droid, R5-D4. Yeah, that droid that Luke Skywalker almost built, almost bought a few years ago, is now on Mandalore, scouting, checking the air on Mandalore. This is insane.
Yeah, that is. So, okay, I have a lore question about this. So, is it like that on Tatooine, like New Year's Eve and the Daytona 500 are like on the same day? Is it both? Which one is this? Because I thought Bunta Eve was like a race day thing, but now it's like New Year's. There's like fireworks. Like, I
was gonna say, it seemed like Indy 500 in space on steroids.
Yeah,
like there's a lot going on. There's like street racing going on. We know the Bunta Eve pod race. But then it's like a big holiday apparently. So like,
yeah,
apparently it's about Bunta the Hutt. Apparently,
that's interesting.
Actually, I'm gonna look it up.
I'm googling it right now.
yeah, because like I wasn't. I'm like I don't remember seeing fireworks in Maz, one of the places before.
As I quote from Wikipedia, the first paragraph. Bunta Eve was an annual holiday and festival celebrated on the desert planet of Tatooine during the last decades of the Old Republic and the time of the New Republic. It honored the rise of Bunta Shadow to godhood in Mos Eisley. It was celebrated with fireworks.
Okay. But then also related to the pod race thing, too, somehow.
I saw Bunta, that's who raced in the Bunta Eve Classic.
The Bunta Eve Classic, that's what it's called.
Yeah.
Right. Fascinating. That's interesting. So I guess we got a little bit more lore with that. But like you said, Ben, we got quickly off it and onto the plot, which was really cool. And one thing that I've been wondering about is like why the Mandalorian logo is like greenish this season, and now I know why, because the hues on Mandalore so incredibly that color. Like I feel like this logo here is like Mandalore. Like that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And the end of this episode gives me the impression that we're gonna be on Mandalore for a while. Like I thought going into this episode, I'm like, okay, are we gonna go to Mandalore? Then we go to Mandalore. I'm like, we're probably like we'll be off Mandalore by the end of the episode. Like, no, not even by a long shot. And I will just say, like, speaking to your points earlier about the look of the show, like it's never looked better. And actually, there's some behind the scenes photos floating around now. I think that the director shared of just kind of some different things, and like one of them is the surface of Mandalore with the N1, and like that they used the volume out there for everyone. Everyone loves to crap on the volume now. They're still using it, and I think very effectively. I don't know how much. I think there's probably a heck of a lot of CGI in this episode, but I think they're using all the pieces and using a lot of different tricks, and it just looks amazing from everything from the surface going down, just going through the atmosphere. I think was amazing. And also Grogu is like I am totally sucked into that character, not just if he's adorable. Also, I can't even think about the fact that he's a puppet. Like, I know he's a real thing. The fact that they use the puppet so much shows, like, helps me buy into the fact that he's a real character. But then I don't even think about it when he's walking around and hopping around and doing all this stuff. And it's that character, what they've done with him is incredible.
Yeah. There's Grogu on the screen, and then I got Grogu back here, and then Ben has Grogu somewhere.
None of them are in reach.
Point to it. No, wait, I see it. It's over your shoulder. It's over your shoulder.
I got this one.
There you go.
I got that one too.
Yeah.
There we go. See, I'm a true Grogu fan.
Yes, fake fan. Yeah, no, I think we were talking about this in the premiere as well. Like the facial expressions on Grogu are like so much more intense this season than previous seasons. Like you can tell they've done a lot of work to the animatronic to like give it lots of different like faces and things, which is I think really, really cool that they've done that. And then having them just like leap through the air, like that was cool. And really, I mean, talking about Grogu in this episode, like I feel like this was one of the most important Grogu episodes because this is the episode where he really like takes over. I mean, he's able to like, pilot from a planet to like another planet / moon. Like, he's able to go talk to Bo-Katan, and then find his way back. Like, he's able to do so much that, he's really learning how to operate by autonomously, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's some of the things going into the season because a lot of people have expressed their concerns and their I think rightful arguments against the idea of like, oh, they brought him back in Book of Boba Fett, maybe it was too soon. Was that the right decision? Did we need a whole season of Mandalorian without him to kind of feel the loss of that big scene at the end of season 2? And I agree with a lot of those things. And my only statement was like, what's done is done. Now Favreau just needs to prove to us that Grogu needs to be here, that he has a part to play in the role. And last episode, those people were like, see, he's not doing anything. He's just being cute again. Like, what's he doing? And I'm like, okay, I get it, guys. I get it. I get where you're coming from. But now I'm willing to fight y'all on that because this episode totally, like, this is the most proactive Grogu has ever been in any episode. And there was a lot of episodes in seasons 1 and 2 where Grogu was just things. The Marshal, a great episode. Grogu doesn't do anything in that episode. He's just there. And he's cute and he's adorable and I love him. But this episode takes it to a whole other level of just like kind of taking, episode 2 where he stops the Mudhorn, like him saving Din's life. Din is completely incapacitated and Grogu takes over and flies the ship and everything, which is probably one of my new favorite Star Wars scenes. It's just him running out of there and, pointing to R5D4, like, go, man, go put on the gas, get out of here.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was really cool, and it was cool kind of continuing to utilize like the pod, like when Grogu went in the pod because of the like air. Not sure if the air was safe. Like I thought that was a kind of a cool use of the pod, and then it was a cool use of the pod, just being able to travel with Din through all of that underground. And then my favorite pod moment though was when Bo-Katan like shoves the pod to the side and it just goes. Ooh. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, the all the Bo-Katan Grogu interactions were great. I love the what are you looking at? And then her just asking him questions. Like she knows he can't talk, but then she's like, "Oh, how good are you with the Force?" Like, are you expecting an answer, Bo? Like, come on.
Here's a question though. When he saw Peli, did he actually talk or not? Because she claims he talked. I'm not sure though.
I don't know.
To rewind and listen again.
I saw this TikTok of someone making a compilation of all the times that Grogu spoke in season 3. And it's like about like 2 minutes long.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. I think it was 2 minutes. I don't know. It felt like forever. And it was only from episode 1 and 2.
Wow.
Here's the question though: is patrol? Is that a word? Otherwise, he's already said it like 15 times.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of interesting how they might like slowly evolve his speech from like baby speak to like basic over a period of time and have it become like start indiscernible and then become more and more discernible as opposed to just going from not talking to talking. Like I think that's really fascinating if that's what their plan is, just to have all these false starts where like, is he saying something we can't tell, and then it just gets clearer and clearer until like it's slowly oh, he actually is saying something, which makes sense. That's realistic. That's what babies would do.
Have either of you seen the most recent Planet of the Apes trilogy movies?
Yes.
No.
So no, not to give away too many spoilers, but the over the course of those movies, of course, it's apes gaining intelligence. That's not a spoiler. But it's the fact that Caesar starts out like saying 1 or 2 words in the first movie, and then it progressively gets to the point where he can have long, mighty speeches because it's Andy Serkis and he's showing off his chops. I could see that happening here, where it's just like he's just 1 word. You know, the I don't know, what would he say? What would be the 1 word that he would say?
This is the way.
But this is the way.
The way this is.
And then we have to find out if he backward speaks or not. You know, is he like Grandpa? Is he like Grandpa Yoda, or is he like Grandma Yaddle?
Grandpa and Grandma. Wait a minute. Is there a whole other generation we've forgotten about here?
I mean, maybe
who's mother and father.
Old Grogu. Not Baby Yoda. Old Grogu or normal Yoda.
I assume Yoda had kids way back in the day. This is like Grogu's like great grandkids. Like he's
okay. But okay, that makes sense if they're aging at the same rate as humans. But clearly, since he's 50 and still a baby, it's like dog years. It's like you have to multiply it. So that means like the age when Yoda would have children would be much older, like 500, 600 years old.
But like Yoda, like how long do Yodas live? Like he only lives 800 years. Like he's in the Clone Wars. Like around that time, he's like at the end of his life. He's about to die.
We don't know how long Yaddle would have lived because Yaddle met an unfortunate end in the Tales of the Jedi.
Rip.
So we wouldn't know.
Oh boy. But anyway, I think Grogu's going to talk at the end of the season. Does any disagreement there?
It makes me think of Game of Thrones, like the whole Hodor reveal that he was actually trying to say hold the door. Trying to think if there's like a longer version of Patu.
Or he's just like way, and he just ends up saying, "This is the way." Oh boy, I leave it to Favreau. He'll think of something. But I mean, come on. I mean, like I said, Grogu is the most. This is the most he's ever done. I just love that whole sequence. It's great. I will say, this is like one of my biggest criticisms of the episode is that it's kind of repetitive. It feels repetitive, kind of in the pacing of the episode to follow Din and Grogu all the way down into the mines. Then Din gets captured. Grogu goes back up, goes get Bo, comes back, and you have Bo and Grogu basically follow the same set. Like they go to the ledge, they talk about it. It's great from a like Bo-Katan perspective of like, okay, you're getting more of her thoughts on this, and she's first time her seeing this. But it's also like she flies down, she lands in the same puddle that Din thing. She fights the same dudes. It's a little like, okay, you could have, I don't know, you could have structured that or edited it a little bit differently. So it was a little bit, it felt a little rings. And then also, let's face it, Bo saves Din's ass twice in this episode. So, that's also a tiny bit repetitive. I don't know what they're trying to tell us here, that the heir to the throne is actually, and maybe that's it. Maybe they need each other. Maybe that's the point we're supposed to get from this episode.
Oh, my favorite part though was when Grogu came in the N1 to go pick up Bo to help him out, and she like goes out thinking it's Din, and she's like, seriously, like, dude. And then Grogu pops out. He's like, oh, hello. What do you like? What's wrong? Oh, you need me to help save his ass again? All right. Oh man, but when she wielded the darksaber,
you're muted, Chris.
I realized it that time. So this reminds me of, I don't know how that happened. I don't remember touching this. I guess I did, and I'm gonna have to review the footage. But really, it's really not. Literally, you mute it by just going like this. So that's why it's like really sensitive. It's like if I accidentally bump it, it mutes. And it's been happening a lot lately. This is not the Zillow Beast episode, Dominic. What are you doing?
Last week.
I'm holding on to it. I'm holding on to the Zillow Beast.
We are talking about a different beast this week.
This is a different
Zillow Beast greater than Mythosaur. I'm just throwing that out there.
Fighting words.
Oh man. So
hi.
Pretty much all we've done, Dominic, is we've done the opening thoughts, and we've talked extensively about Grogu and then slightly about Tatooine, and that's really it.
Okay.
So there's more Mandalorian discussion. I was just about to get to the Bo-Katan discussion, and then all stuff at the end. I haven't really talked about that much.
Okay, great.
So that's where we are.
Terrific.
So did you have some general opening thoughts to start us off with? I
believe the phrase you're looking for is initial impressions of the episode.
Initial impressions of the episode.
Yes, quite.
Yes, quite. Yeah. I liked this episode. Obviously, I liked it. I don't know if I'm quite as hyped on it as a lot of people. Not because of anything that necessarily has to do with character. Or sort of Star Wars lore, or even the plot progression of the season. I just, this episode played into some, all things considered, relatively minor issues I've been having with Jon Favreau as the writer of The Mandalorian, not as the showrunner or the director, which both places I think he's doing a great job. And, I think Jon Favreau, he's hands off with his directors in the sense that he lets them do their thing. But I think he fills that supervising director-ish role, the same kind of thing that Dave Filoni did on the Clone Wars. So he's hands off. He lets his guys do his own thing, but let's not pretend his fingerprints aren't all over the visual language of these episodes. And I think he does a great job there, as do all the directors and stuff. But I feel like all of his scripts need another draft. And there's so much padding in them. There's stuff that just sort of happens. And I'm not saying the F word, because it's a different thing. It's a different thing from filler. Padding and filler are not the same thing. But there's stuff that happens in these episodes that just kind of it's just there. It's not doing anything. It's just sort of it's just part of the episode without doing something that's interesting, that shows us character moments, that moves the plot forward, a phrase I've learned to loathe, but it's just kind of sort of there. And this episode has a lot of that in the opening half, a lot of that. And so, all the stuff with, look, I love Pelimoto, and anytime we get Amy Sedaris on screen, it's terrific. But like the whole scene on Tatooine with getting the droid, and then getting the droid and taking the droid there, and then the droid has to go in and they have to test the air quality. And there were about four trips back and forth to the Starfighter. And I was like, by the time he went back to get Grogu, I'm like, he could have just stuck a stick in the air and been like, yeah, okay, good. Let's go and let's get to the mines. And so I feel like, all these things that happen, and there was some stuff in the previous episodes and lots of stuff in Book of Boba where I felt like if you wrote the script again, if you did another draft on it, or you had a more judicious like editor with the script or editor with the final project, and then again, not to diminish the work that people do, because they do great stuff, you could cut this stuff out and you'd have a tighter episode, an episode that moves along at a better clip, and that does what it needs to do without this extra stuff. Now, if the extra stuff was really interesting, I'd say, okay, just do it. But it wasn't interesting. And so I think John either needs to write his script one more time, or he needs to start getting some co-writers in there to where he can write the first draft, give it to them to write the second and third and fourth drafts, and then he takes it again and does the final pass on it to make sure it's exactly his vision. So that sort of is an issue I've been having with a lot of the Mandoverse lately, and this episode played into that, unfortunately. So for the first half of the episode, I was kind of sitting there going like, really, this is the epic return to Mandalore? And it wasn't until Din got captured by the weird robot creature with an eye that I'm like, okay, now the episode has truly begun. And everything from that point on, I thought was stellar. And I think we just could have gotten to that point faster.
Yeah,
and been more economical with the storytelling, and covered all the same material in a more interesting way, because we weren't dilly-dallying with R5D4 as much as I love R5D4. R5D4's short story From a Certain Point of View, A New Hope, is that's the best short story in that book. It's so incredible. I can't believe it. So like, I love R5D4, but I didn't need all that dilly-dallying. I would rather get to the Bo-Katan Din Djarin conversation in the ruins of the city of Sundari, so much quicker, and really see where everybody shines, from Favreau to Pedro and Katie to everybody else working on the show, because that stuff is really fantastic. That's the stuff that, like, when Mando season 2 ended and we start speculating those early speculations about season 3, what's the kind of stuff you want to see? That's right there is what I want to see, is those scenes with those two, and that's where this episode really delivered for me. And I thought it was real. That was where it was really, really strong. And I love me a good cliffhanger, and I think it did a great job with that. So yeah. Yeah. So that's basically what I'm getting at. And, I'll just say, because I brought up padding versus filler, whatever you think of those filler episodes, quote unquote, of the Bad Batch, I don't think there was a lot of padding in there. I think those scripts moved along pretty smoothly, and at a pretty good clip. It's whether you like them or not. That's the question.
Yeah. Well, like you said before, I think the moral of the story is you can do padding and filler if it's interesting.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
If it's not, then it's a problem. Like, again, the padding and filler inside an Oreo cookie is fine.
Yeah, but
that's good. We want more of that.
To me, though, the padding is like the package, right? That's what you get rid of when you want the Oreo. Is you get rid of the package, because the padding.
It's the cookie part. That's what you get rid of to get to the good part. You take that out.
You take it out of the
more Oreo talk, please, for the love of
God. We bring this up just to
gonna
drive
have to
Dan
bring
insane.
some Oreos next week to do a demonstration.
Yeah, that's now there's an idea.
how to do this. Some blue milk. Where are the blue milk Oreos? Missed opportunity.
Now we're talking here. Get some of those for Star Wars Celebration.
Oh man.
So that's basically what I mean to say is like I just to make sure I'm being clear with what I'm saying here is that there's just things I think that are in the episode that Favreau writes thinking like I need to explain what the atmosphere is like on Mandalore, and so he puts in this really sort of convoluted way of doing it with all the back and forth.
That made
when
no sense.
all he needed was something. You could have done that in a fraction of the time, and it would have made just as much sense.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it's just Din going, I can breathe.
They had to go through this whole thing of showing off that he could pressurize his helmet, and then there was this whole thing of him sounding like Darth Vader, which was just kind of odd.
Can I just throw in one more thing? I would have loved it if it was the cliche of like he falls and the helmet depressurizes and he starts like gripping his throat, going and then realizes, oh wait, I can breathe. It's safe. It's fine. I would have been on board for that.
See, I'm the outlier here. I really like that whole sequence. I mean, it could have been a little bit shorter, maybe, but just the fact of acknowledging that, like, the atmosphere on a planet might not be breathable. Like every planet they go to, they just land on it and they're like, open the door, no big deal. Like, and like, this is like, okay, this is not only a weird planet, but it's been literally nuked, and they need to figure out if it's,
and
I like that.
That's a fair point, Ben. I do think that's a fair point because the last time we saw this planet in the Book of Boba flashbacks, which they included in the previously on this week, is literally a mushroom cloud. It's like a massive destructive explosion. And so, yes, I agree that they did need to acknowledge it. I just think they could have found a more economical or a more interesting way of doing it. And I also felt like that little snippet of set felt very small. Mandalore is supposed to be an expansive world, and you get that later when they're going through the city. But that little bit felt like, well, that's the bit of the set that we built. And so we're going to film it, and we've set up the volume around it. That's the one time Mando this season has felt small.
Right. I think, it's fair criticism, and I agree that, the ultimate debut of Skippy the Jedi droid on Mandalore was a bit underwhelming. Just a bit.
Yeah. All right. So I've gotten all my complaints out of me. I've gotten all that out. So now we can focus on the good stuff for the rest of the episode.
So, okay. So where we were at before in the discussion, we had talked about all the Grogu things, and we can get back to that as we get back to different parts of the story if it relates. But we were about to start talking about Bo-Katan, and the thing I wanted to say about Bo-Katan was, I want to know what she's doing all day. Like, this is multiple times where the first shot of her is just sitting on the throne doing nothing. She's not like scrolling through Twitter on her phone. She's not watching Netflix. She's not doing anything. She's literally just sitting there.
She's brooding. That's
right.
What she does. She
everything thinks that all she does is she just wakes up and she sits on the throne and just broods.
No, but it looks
day.
like on the throne, like this last episode, it looks like there was a blanket on there.
Yeah,
so it looks like she was just there,
like
chilling the whole time. Like,
not moving anywhere, not moving an inch.
But
I love that, like, she just wants to be alone with her droid, and like when the N1 shows up, she goes out to the thing. And like she's like, before the canopy even opens, she can see there's nobody in the canopy. She just starts yelling at him, like, I told you to tell. I'm like, wait till he opens the canopy, like he's gonna open up and not gonna hear you.
Imagine Din was in there and he opens up. Sorry, were you saying something? I couldn't hear you.
First of all, I'm wearing a helmet. Second of all, the canopy was closed. What do you expect, woman?
That's one of those writing things where that you're mentioning, Dominic, because it's like, okay, the writer knows that regardless, he's not going to hear it because he's not there. So thus, he writes it in a way that is unrealistic if he was there, which the character thinks.
Yeah, I'll be honest, that sort of writing thing doesn't bother me so much. That's like a little that that's it's I agree, like it's it's a little silly, but that's the sort of thing that doesn't bother me too much because it is at least conveying something.
Yeah.
We're getting a little bit of like we're seeing that Bo-Katan really she wants nothing to do with him. Even as much as she said that last week, we're sort of hammering that point home before sort of having her do the about face and realizing, oh, maybe I should actually go save this guy. Like, like, or maybe she's in denial, like there's, we could get into the psychology of what's going on with her. I will say, I think the the best explanation though, for all that stuff is that I saw a great TikTok last week of what Bo-Katan is really doing. And it's her like covered in a blanket on FaceTime being like, no, mom, I've given up on trying to, and then she hears the N1 Starfighter and she runs out quickly changing into her armor and then figuring out how to like pose. Oh, cool. Which is the opposite of what I just did.
See, that's what I thought was happening in the first time that we went to go see her, is she was already on the throne by the time they got to her. So my assumption was she like was somewhere else and then she heard it coming and then she went and ran up on there and got ready for to receive the guests.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk about this. Like, I think there is something to be said for Bo-Katan. She's her dreams have been shattered at this point. Her goals are dead. She's basically given up, and she's left there sort of in this palace that's kind of a tribute to what she can never be, or what she believes she can never be, what she feels she's lost, what she feels she has failed at. And this is an instance, I think, where the Mandalorian and Star Wars in general are being a little bit more poetic than literal, because on a show like Andor that's a little bit more literal, you're not having, Cassian's not walking into a room and Deidre Muro's not going to be waiting for him on a throne every single time. Like that's just not the vibe of that show. With Mando though, it's more poetic, it's more operatic, and we're meant to sort of take from this that Bo-Katan is haunted by what she sees as her own failings and what she sees as what she can never actually have or achieve. And so that's why she's always on the throne. She is, I think she's depressed. I think she's kind of miserable about it. And, she sees Din as the guy who took it from her. He took her last chance at doing what she wanted. And now she's sort of like, she has a lot of anger towards him. But I think in the back of her mind, she already knows where this season is going. That the only way now to accomplish her goals is to unite with this guy. And so even though she's maybe not ready to admit it at the start of this episode and she'd really like him to F off and leave her alone, as soon as she realizes that he might be in danger and that her last chance at the real last chance at uniting Mandalore, or the best chance at uniting Mandalore, is in danger, then that's when she does spring into action and actually gets out there and gets involved again. So I don't know, but that's my take on it. You guys chime in if you feel I'm absolutely loony and losing my mind.
I think she just wants the Darksaber back, and she's like, "Oh, something happened to Din. Ooh, we can get the Darksaber," which again is a question I'm going to have when we talk about the end of this episode.
But I mean, but it speaks to her moral character that she could have gone to Mandalore and just like murdered him, or just let the thing kill him and take the saber, and that's that, and no one would ever know.
Okay.
The fact that she saves his life twice.
Okay. But here's the question. This is my question. Since we're on this, let's just talk about it. So the random cyborg. Does this random cyborg have a name? Dude.
He doesn't have a name. This is a Favreau show.
The cyborg, Got it. So the cyborg,
cyborg, CEYE.
Yeah, there you go.
Cy-Borg. So anyway, this Cybot dude person thing, Doesn't it technically defeat Din and take the Darksaber? Isn't by the rules of combat, doesn't the Darksaber then belong to the Cybot? And then when
Interesting.
Bo-Katan takes it from the cyborg, doesn't that mean that now it's rightfully hers?
Oh God, this is like Harry Potter wand logic stuff.
I kind of thought about that too.
Yeah, because that's what I was thinking as it was happening. I'm like, is this a tricky way of them explaining how she can get it back? Because remember at the end of last season, he just wanted to give it to her. He's just like, if this means so much to you, you can just have it. And she's like, that doesn't work that way.
Here's what I'm gonna say. I don't think that's the case.
They would have made a bigger deal of it, wouldn't they?
Yeah, but this is what I think may be going on there. And this is perhaps a case for Bo-Katan not actually saving Din because she's a good person. So what does Moff Gideon say when Din tries to give her the Darksaber? He says the Darksaber doesn't actually have power. The story does. And so, Din Djarin holding up and saying, I yield, even though technically she's won it from him in battle, that doesn't do it. She has to actually defeat him.
I see.
In front of people.
It's
and
just
claim
like
it
with
for
Maul,
herself.
Maul and Pre Vizsla. It's this Joe. It's someone going in, going, I challenge you, and doing the theatrics of it in front of a large group and doing, okay, now I'm thinking everyone's seen me win it, so I'm the ruler, as opposed to I snuck around and by technical scenario, I actually am winning. No, she's already been through that. She had someone hand it to her and it didn't work. So she is, as much as she's not superstitious, she's supposedly not superstitious.
She's just a little stitious.
She's just a little stitious.
Yeah.
She is super superstitious of, I can't take this. I have to actually do this the proper way. Otherwise, it's not going to take.
Joel says in the chat, and this is a super chat, so thanks, Joel, that he thinks the logic of the Darksaber is you have to challenge them to a battle for the Darksaber. Otherwise, Palpatine would have had a claim to Mandalore, because I think he took it at one point. Yeah. So I guess the whole challenge thing has to happen. I challenge you.
Yeah. So therefore, if Bo goes and saves Din, she might be just keeping him alive
so she can,
so that at the right time she can say, I challenge you. I challenge you to a duel. And they'll go out that way. So that's another possibility here. But yeah, it's ultimately, Bo should also be the one to know that even wielding the Darksaber doesn't mean you can unify Mandalore, because she saw that Maul Pre Vizsla duel. She saw what went down, and by all rights, Maul killing Vizsla should have made him the rightful ruler of Mandalore. It should have made him the Mandalore. And for 50% of the Mandalorians in that room, they're like, yeah, this is our guy now. This is who we follow. And for the other 50% who were led by Bo-Katan, they chose not to follow Maul. They said no outsider will ever rule Mandalore. And so they chose to go in a different direction. So ultimately, if anybody should understand the weakness of the Darksaber and the weakness of these symbols, it should be Bo. And she's also the one that's like, I don't believe in legends. I don't believe in myths. I don't believe in curses. I don't believe in this stuff. Like she's like, I believe in facts and figures and hard truths and evidence and that sort of thing.
She's a recovering Catholic. I feel that.
Yeah. So that's sort of, it's an interesting place where we find her, where I think she sees the Darksaber as a tool, but she probably also knows it's not the be all end all. She understands what Gideon says. She understands that the story of it has power, but ultimately, it's going to take more than that. But
I think there's also there's some definite parallels between Din, who is isn't a cult. He's in a cult. He's a very religious guy who is stuck to his beliefs, that's ultimately losing his religion through this series, his story. And you have Bo, who is kind of been through all of that, and it's just like, screw everything. I don't believe in any of this stuff. now she's come face to face with this mythical beast, and she's having a crisis of conscience, and she's gonna have to rethink everything that she's thought. So I like that. I think maybe we're heading towards these characters kind of meeting in the middle and going like, okay, and she says in this episode, like, I'm tired of watching make people fight each other. Like, what better way to orchestrate that is to actually work with this guy.
Yeah, Din's like, that's me in the corner. That's me in the spot, losing my religion. But Anna, I wanted to get your take on this and what you think is going on with Bo-Katan and what she's, what are her motives? What are her goals for this season? What do you think we've seen of that so far?
I mean, like I said, it does. I feel like I actually connect with Bo in a way, as like that whole recovering Catholic type of thing. I'm not gonna go like too into like the whole religion thing, but I feel that in a way, and then just like seeing like when she sees Din just being all, like still sticks to the religion and everything. Like, oh, I think part of it is like, oh, I'm just gonna entertain him while he does this. Like when she like rescues him from the cyborg spit roast, when she's like kind of is like, oh, you know what, I'm not doing anything, obviously I've been just sitting around on a throne these past few days, weeks, who knows, might as well just show you like where to go, because it'll probably take you a while, and I don't want to come back and try to save you from dying again, and then so yeah, I feel like this, and then obviously when she sees the mythosaur, it's like, oh yeah, like a whole new just like change of mind, like, oh, okay, revelation that, okay, maybe it is, but yeah, I like everyone else has said, like, I feel like this is like a meeting in the middle, just like coming from both sides to find like maybe a medium. I think what will end up happening in like the season.
Yeah, I think there's actually a moment of that in this episode, and it's actually it's a moment. I think we're expecting that moment to come when Din's beliefs are challenged, but it's actually a moment, I think, when Bo's beliefs are challenged a little bit, because she's like, I'm not vibing with the creed. I don't really care about it. Like, that's not my thing. That I just see that as part of the theatrics of being a Mandalorian. It's not necessarily central to it. And then there's a moment where she's talking about her father, and she's talking about sort of the great man that he was and all the great things that he did, and how he, this is where I have only seen the episode once, which is rare for me. But she says there's something that she says where either did he sacrifice himself for Mandalore or something to that effect.
She says he died fighting for Mandalore.
He died fighting for Mandalore, and Din looks at her and he says, "This is the way." And it's like it's the first time that I feel like that saying has been said in a way that is true to its actual meaning.
This is the way to say this is the way.
Yeah, exactly. It's not, because like when it's said most of the time, it's this like call of the zealots of like, we have to only do things this way. We can't take off our helmets. We have to follow all of these rules that we've set for ourselves. It's very Jedi Order in the prequels.
Dogmatic.
Yeah, it's very dogmatic. It's like the Jedi in the prequels with the stick to these set of rules because this is the way. And what Din says when he says it in that moment, when he says this is the way, he's saying it's like that. No, that is what it actually means to be a Mandalorian. It's the spirit of what Bo's father did, what that guy accomplished, and the way he lived his life in service of his people. This is the way. That's what that saying actually means, and it's lost its meaning because of people like the Armorer, people like Paz Vizsla, and frankly, people like Din Djarin parroting it around the galaxy, making it about, can I wear my helmet or not, instead of, something that Din's been saying a lot in the trailers, which is, Mandalorian is more than a race. It's a creed. It's a way of being. It's a way of, you'll never be lost in the galaxy. There's a deeper meaning to being a Mandalorian than wearing Mandalorian armor.
And there's so many. I think there's so many parallels because, just to, I mean, real world religion. I think, and I'm not saying that as this show is its message is religion sucks. I don't think it's saying that. I think what you can take from this is that religions, perhaps in the Star Wars galaxy, we're seeing this with This Is the Way and the ancient way of the Mandalore versus real world religions and people getting caught up in, traditions and worrying about stuff that doesn't actually matter. And I think Din is so worried about being a good Mandalorian that he needs to actually worry about being a good person and being there for his.
I was gonna say, Ben, he needs to stop worrying about being a good Mandalorian and just worry about being a good man. Just drop the Mandalorian part. That's
right,
what he has
exactly.
to do. And I say man the way you said person. Like I mean it's just like
right. Yeah, no, that's a better way to put it. It's better.
One small step for man.
Yeah, mankind.
But that's like, but how is that like? That's so with like, and I come from a religious background. I get it. Like this is people get so wrapped up in, am I a good Christian? Am I a good whatever? It's just like, no,
my religion is whatever
person.
Be a good, do what's good for your people and what's good for your world.
Is it
that's what wearing his helmet or not? He needs to worry about his people, uniting his people and bringing Mandalore back.
Should we hit the song? Was
I mean,
that enough?
The audio is fine, but the video.
Yeah, we got.
No,
Say
I hate
some
that
words,
it was
Ben.
ruined with that.
No,
I'm
we
saying
got the point.
The video,
we got
the
the
audio
point,
is there, it's just the video.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all that matters. Okay, I don't give a damn about the video. Okay, I want
yeah, this is still a podcast first.
Yeah, we're going to be
audio
redoing our
medium.
intro, and that should be Ben's new part. I
Yeah.
don't give a damn about the video.
I don't give a damn about no video.
You quote me on that.
Yeah. Can I ask something that is, we've been having a really deep conversation here, and I'm going to take it away from that for just a moment, but still relates to Din and Bo's conversation. Did anyone else spend the entire conversation going, mention Satine? Mention Satine. When are you gonna mention
I was
Satine?
surprised.
Why aren't you mentioning
100%.
Satine?
Yeah, I was surprised.
Just say your sister. Just say your sister. Just say it.
I won't stand for this Satine erasure. Come on, bring her back. Let's get that reference in there. I mean, I Kenobi is perfection, but I was a little disappointed that they never said the word Padme in that series. But they talked about her enough that I'm like, I feel Padme's presence in this series. If you just watch this episode and you don't know the Clone Wars or even Rebels, frankly, you'd think Bo was an only child. Like, there was no mention of any siblings. If she just said the word siblings, I would have been like,
she's talking about the princess. Like, there's another princess. What about the other princess? Like, this episode just like confirms that, like, because we got more information that we didn't know. We hear about their father and all this stuff about the coronation and taking the creed and all this kind of stuff. And like, now I'm just convinced that we have to have a Satine Bo-Katan movie. We have to go back and tell that story because there's so much. There's Satine's time with Obi-Wan. There's all the stuff with their father. There's the war. There's how did Bo-Katan go from being one of the part of the royal family to being with this terror group? Like, how did that happen? I want to know, Lucasfilm. Jeez.
I just want a Satine, just like the story of Satine and Obi-Wan when Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan were protecting her. Just that period of time. That's all I need, and then I'll be content.
Me too.
Yeah.
No, I won't be happy until we get a full-on flashback with Kate Blanchett and Ewan McGregor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Of course that. I mean,
that's what
after
I want.
that, then
y'all
might need to like do like a checkup, wellness check here. I'm just saying.
Yes, breaking news. Several people have died after a certain flashback in a Star Wars TV show.
Jeez. we're veering dark, and then Ben just like, let's dive head first, like we're Din Djarin going into the waters of Mandalore. Man, should we talk about the waters? Should we talk about that scene at the end?
There's always a bigger fish.
I mean, there's always a bigger dinosaur. I thought the crocodile last week was big enough.
This is the turn in the jaw. Stay out of the water.
I mean, you know, I think it's interesting. I nearly said Satine. I think Bo is right that the waters have no actual healing powers. Like, it makes no difference whether you dive in there or not as to whether you're a Mandalorian.
Oh, definitely not.
But I nearly said Satine again. Bo needs to listen to her old friend Ahsoka, who once said, "There's always a bit of truth in legends," and you know, the taming of a mythosaur. This goes back to the very first episode when Queel mentioned this, that, you know, he says to Din, your ancestors tamed the mighty mythosaur. And I think, you know, we've been building to this moment for 2 seasons now, 2 seasons and a bit. And it's a long time coming. It was pretty cool to see it.
A bit is an actual unit of time.
Is it?
I think so.
I have no idea. I use it colloquially.
Or is it money? Is it an eighth of a cent? Anyway, continue.
I have no clue. It was for they've been building up to it for a shilling. I don't know. But I feel like, you know, not to speculate too much about next week, but like, it's got to be Din and Bo taking this thing down together or taming it together, and that being a metaphor for them realizing that the only way they can unify Mandalore is to, you know, get on the same page and work together. I think they got that's where we're going, right? That's got it. Like, I hope that there's more to it, or I hope that I'm open to being wrong. I won't say I hope there's more to it. I'm open to being wrong, but that feels like the direction. Feels like there's a lot of obvious sort of visual metaphors that could be done there. A lot of visual storytelling that could be done with that. And boy, they've loved their creature attacks this season. They're really like, we've had like 3 or 4 over 2 episodes, and we're gonna have another one next week.
I love the parallel. I love the parallel between the last episode, because a lot of people, I didn't really get this, but a lot of people were like, "Oh, is this the opening scene? Is this a flashback? Is this young Din?" And my thought, and now it's just confirmed now, that essentially that's effectively what it did. Is it was this thing of like, this is what all children of the watch go through. This is what Din went through, and having Din go into the water and recite the lines but not get to finish, just like that young kid did, because of a giant beast. Real interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty, the foreshadowing was heavier than we thought last week with that scene. It really sort of set things up.
That scene was just filler.
Yes, filler. Yeah, I did love that the episode ended on like a true cliffhanger. I don't think we've had that in Mandalorian. The episodes tend to end with at least a little bit of resolution and like a tease for next time. I guess season one finale had a true cliffhanger in there. But this one is like, they're, you know, they just got spat out of the water, and there's a monster coming for them. What's going to happen? They might as well be hanging from a cliff. One other thing, relating to the Bo-Katan, Din Djarin stuff. We talked a little bit about the Darksaber in theory already, and like, you know, what is its power, literal or metaphorically. One thing we do see in this episode is Bo using the Darksaber and wielding it, and we also see Din wielding it. And one of them is a lot better at it than the other one.
Yes.
And, you know, I think it's clear who understands this weapon. And maybe that's a sign of who it should belong to. Or maybe that's a sign to that person needs to teach other people how to use it. Or maybe it's a sign of a little bit of both of those things.
Didn't we have this problem in Star Wars Rebels where there was a bit of a discussion about who should have the darksaber, and it got kind of confusing?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's again, I don't know this for a fact, but it just looking at what happened towards the end of Rebels, I think they were setting up a storyline with Sabine, not to be confused with Satine
or Bo,
reuniting Mandalore with the darksaber.
But where's Bobine? Anyway, continue.
Oh no!
Oh my God!
Where's Satine's sister, Bobine? No, wait, Sabine's sister,
Bobine. Yeah.
We technically don't know how many kids there were. So,
but there's just one of the best episodes of Star Wars Rebels is Trials of the Darksaber, in which Kanan teaches Sabine. I'm on edge now. I don't know which one's which. He teaches Sabine how to use the Darksaber, and I remember when we talked about the Book of Boba, and there was the Darksaber training sequence in there. I went back and like dug up the quotes from Kanan. I don't have them offhand, but he basically said the same thing as the armorer about, understanding the sword as an extension of you. And you won't ever be able to use it unless you sort of understand its energy, understand its power, and understand that that's an extension of you. If you see it as something separate from you, then it's not going to work for you. And that's where we see Din kind of lumbering around with it and Bo swinging it like a champ. So
in the words of a dark Jedi once said, "You need a teacher."
Yeah, exactly. But I think that there was at one point a plan for Sabine to do a reunification of Mandalore's storyline, and that Dave Filoni was working on that. And around the same time that Dave was developing that idea is when Jon Favreau was approached Lucasfilm about doing a live action show. And he said, I would like to do Mandalorians. And that's when Kathleen Kennedy said, we got this other guy who also wants to do Mandalorians. You've actually worked with him before, and we've been training him in the arts of live action. Rian Johnson has had him on set and putting him behind the camera and all sorts of stuff. And so she put the two of them together and they merged the ideas. And if you look at where season 3 of Rebels ends with Sabine not part of the Ghost crew anymore, and how season 4 begins with a very quick change of direction with Sabine rejoining the Ghost crew and passing the Darksaber off to Bo, it suggests that there was a change in direction there. And so Rebels kind of gave up on this storyline, so that, and I think a lot of the groundwork that was laid for that storyline has been shifted to the live action, and we're going to see a version of it in this.
There's that, and then there's the fact that I still believe that Rebels was going to deal with the Death Star until Rogue One came along.
Yeah.
And so it's season 1 and 2 got whoop, and then season 3 got whoop. And it's just like,
yeah, I feel
poor
like
show.
Yeah, Rebels was always the second child.
And then Dave Filoni is just like, you need a Band-Aid for this massive extraction. Here's Ahsoka here. Here's Ahsoka there. Here's Darth Vader. Here's Darth Maul. Fix.
Yeah.
Ben Kenobi. Facts.
Yeah, and Dave's like, I can't do what I want in animation. I'm going to the live action to get these stories told. And then he said to the guys doing the animation, said, pick a niche and stick to it, and don't try and do too much, and just work within your means and excel at it, which, as I say every week, I think they're doing on Bad Batch. But it was poor Rebels. It was constantly, season 1 is so clearly a setup for the Death Star.
Yeah.
That poor Rebels. But yeah, speaking as a fan of Clone Wars and Rebels, seeing live action Bo-Katan played by Katie Sackhoff wielding the Darksaber and having her little shield on her arm there and going into battle. Oh, yes. Talk about wish fulfillment stuff coming true.
Awesome.
Just excellent. And seeing the two of them just walk the ruined streets of Sundari City.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Just great.
That's awesome.
Just amazing stuff. All right. Should we do Should we do our favorite segment?
Do it.
You guys know, everybody know what time it is? Everybody excited?
Gee, it's too bad that I didn't take any notes this week. There's nothing to talk on. Oopsie.
Oh well. You
no,
know what?
okay, all right.
All right. Well, it's you know what it is. It's your favorite segment. It's my favorite segment. It's our favorite segment. It's once again time for Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. All right, Ben. We got the studio audience. Are you ready? What have you got?
Studio audience, clapping, yay!
What have you got for us, Ben? Tell us about the connections.
Yeah, well, some of these are like freaking very obvious, but I'm going to talk about them anyway because this is the Connection Corner. All right, I make connections. We got Boonta Eve. We already talked about it, but I just love that. You know, we fully got the. It's a national holiday on Tatooine. It's a big deal.
Did you guys talk about how Hannah Raeside called this? Did you guys mention that? Because I remember a couple of weeks ago on the show.
No, what did she call?
She called that the fireworks scene was Boonta Eve.
Oh, well,
so
done,
I gotta
Hannah.
give that one to Hannah.
Oh,
so
my.
yeah, Boonta Eve. It's cool.
Yeah, very cool. And I
still want to know what Boonta is. What are they celebrating? Who was this Boonta?
Look, we
read it.
We already had this discussion.
Yeah.
We already, look,
you're
late.
Gotta
You're late.
rewind.
We already had this
I'm
discussion.
sorry. I was late. I'm sorry. I had to work. I'm sorry. I'll get out of the corner. All right. I'm leaving.
Jeez. Jeez, he shows up late and he's like, "What'd you guys talk about?" So we're like, "Well, yeah, we talked about it." Jeez, man. Boy. You will notice that Pelly, poor Pelly, is still missing a tooth from her incident during the Battle of Mos Espa, Mos Eisley, whatever else, during Book of Boba Fett. Which just goes to show, I guess, dental insurance and stuff is as bad on Tatooine as it is in America.
You know, given who Mayor Mokshaiz was hanging out with in Book of Boba, makes sense, honestly.
Right. So Pelly makes mention of, I think she says something along the lines of, it's purring like a nuzzle shrew. What? And I looked it up. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. There is no Wikipedia article for nuzzle shrew.
Somebody should make it.
I love these nonsense words that they give to Amy Sedaris, and they're just like, just say them. It'll sound great coming out of your mouth.
Sometimes she just makes them up on the spot.
What
like,
was
this sounds Star Warsy?
Wasn't there some type of shrew that Snoke was talking about?
No, he was talking about a cur, which we realized is an actual word that means like a rabid dog.
Oh,
yeah. But you know, the next
just being super Shakespearean.
The next Star Wars show for Disney Plus shouldn't be Ahsoka or Skeleton Crew or The Acolyte. It should be the Taming of the Mushroom or whatever.
The Taming of the Cur Shrew.
Cur Shrew, that's what it was. I couldn't remember. It was a mushroom. It's a mushroom without an M, without the M at the end.
I do like Kershaw milk.
So when Grogu decides to leap, which was just all the leaping Grogu does is just freaking fantastic. Pelly's like, "Oh, who taught you to leap like a Lurman?" And I lost it.
I caught that. I caught that from season 1 of Clone Wars. Yes,
which they do kind of leap like that. They kind of leap. They're big lemur dudes.
Yeah.
That's what we need in the background. Just a Lurman rolling around in the background of a shot in the Mandalore. Make it happen, Filoni. They all see. She like in the same line. It's like a reference a second with good old Pelimoto. We got. Are you here to take on Boba Fett? And then are the Hutts back?
Yeah.
So apparently the Hutt twins are still AFK. But we'll see if they show up. I also love her use, and I'm going to use this myself. This is new. This is new terminology I'm going to take with me. Sorry, pal, no chance cubes.
I like
just the combining of no chance and no dice. Just that's brilliant. So apparently R5D4 served in the rebellion. What's up?
That's one of those ones where
Did she make that up? Did she make that up?
You can't take everything that Pelly says at face value.
She starts the scene like lying to the Rhodian dude. So
she's scamming someone at the at the start of the episode.
So when we get to Mandalore, basically the way the scene is blocked and the movement and everything of when Din lifts R5 back up to his upright seems pretty much exactly the same as how Luke lifts R2 on Dagobah when he falls over. Which I know that's really stretching it because I mean how many different ways can you
this is an episode where they go to Mandalore, talk about the past, and face a mythosaur, and Ben's like, the big connection to this episode is the way that Din lifts the droid up is very similar.
I'm not finished yet.
Similar to the way Luke lifts the droid. Ben, on a week, there are some weeks where that's an acceptable connection.
Oh, we're grading the connections.
I want to know about the not obvious ones because if you came on here and you were like, "You guys, did you notice that Sundari is from the Clone Wars?" I would have been very disappointed.
Yeah, guess what's not on my list? The frickin' mythosaur, because we all got it. Okay, I respect my audience. I respect you guys that you're not that dumb that you wouldn't see a frickin' giant mythosaur. Anyhow. I love that we got the final confirmation that Din is actually from Concordia. That the moon of Concordia where Death Watch is hanging out, that is legit. That's been kind of in the wind, kind of speculation for a while. I love this, and just that whole conversation with him saying like, "Oh, I've never been there either." Like, really cool, really good stuff. And just this whole episode gave me strong R2 come home vibes. Does anybody know what I'm talking about here?
Yes.
Anakin sending R2 back to Coruscant to save the day, which it makes more sense in this episode because like Kalvala is like in the same system, whereas like R2 has to fly halfway across the galaxy and then come back with Plo Koon and all the way to Coruscant. It's one of my favorite Clone Wars episodes.
I feel like both things are referencing Lassie.
I was gonna say, I feel like Grogu's basically gone back to tell Bo that Din's got trapped down a well.
Yep.
He's trapped in a giant rotisserie down a well.
What's that, boy? Din's been trapped down a well. Well, we better go save him. Come on.
I love the return of the very I need to start saying it this way myself because this is obviously the better way to say this word. Rescheduled.
We got
a lot in Andor.
That is the correct pronunciation. By the way, that is the correct pronunciation of that word. Scheduled. It should be. We say scheduled.
I mean, debatable, but I agree it's the better terminology. So I love that. We got speaking of Sabine, we got Bo-Katan whipping the Darksaber into her hand exactly like Bo-Katan Sabine did in Rebels. Just again amazing, and also the shield and everything. Just the fact that like you can definitely like draw some pretty obvious connection to Mandalorians and Jedi, but definitely Mandalorians to like knights, and like just the fact that she's fighting that giant robot with a sword and shield is like straight up cool. So we got this episode was directed by Rachel Morrison. She was cinematographer for 2018's Black Panther with Ryan Coogler. And she also made a movie called Mudbound, which she earned a nomination for Best Cinematography at the Academy Awards. She's the first woman to ever receive that nomination, which is great for her and also shame for the Oscars because that was in 2017. It took them that long to nominate a woman. Anyway, okay,
Rachel
so
Morrison.
Oscars be Oscars.
Yeah.
This is another segment within a segment that I like to call Ben noticed some stuff, but there's not really connections. It's just cool stuff that he wants to talk about.
Right.
So
do we need a new song?
No, we don't.
What genre should this be?
No, we don't. So if you notice, you look to the left in the opening shot of Mos Eisley, there is a speeder bike doing a donut in one of the like back alleys, like going around, like not like a really close circle. I'm like, what is going on over there?
Okay.
I like the fact. I actually don't like this. This is probably my biggest complaint about the episode because this will drive me insane. R5 coming out of the droid port makes no sense if you actually look at the N1.
It's never
look
made
at how
sense
things
with an N1. Like R2 shouldn't have fit in there in Phantom Menace.
But no, they made it work though. They made it work. Like the thing, like the N1s are higher off the ground in the Phantom Menace, and they pull them up, and then the dome telescopes up.
I have the solution to this. All right, the N1s are magic. They're like the TARDIS, and the reason why is because they also shouldn't fit in the hangar because technically speaking, the hangar isn't big enough for them, and the tails should be sticking out, but they don't. The tails magically grow shorter.
This is.
But the tails go into the wall. That's how they fixed it, though.
Yeah,
this episode makes no effort to fix anything. It's just like he drops out. There's a engine right underneath where the droid port is. He shouldn't physically be able to, unless he goes in and his head goes like at a 90-degree angle across into the ship and back up, which makes no damn sense.
Where is Grogu's pod?
Chris
Seekell, the Star Wars guy. Chris Seekell, the Star Wars guy. Chris.
Where is Yoda's pod the whole time? He goes back into the pod, but you don't see him
again.
Into the pod.
Where
is it?
Actually, you're right. This is a TARDIS because our last episode he just appeared out of nowhere.
I think Harrison Ford put it best when he said, "It's fake and in space." Just saying.
All right, I got a lot more to go, so strap in. No, I don't. I this is something from the last episode. I just like the fact that there's a little Mandalorian chest design on the actual droid, so he's like a Mandalorian droid. Pretty cool. I like just the sense of realism when they're coming into the atmosphere of Mandalore. The fact that like the front landing like strut, whatever you call it, on the gauntlet fighter is just ever so slightly shaking in like the turbulence. It's just that much more detail in just like making this feel real, and just great. And for some reason the archways in the mines kind of reminded me of Dagobah. There's some archways down in the tree on Dagobah. And that's the end of the segment within a segment and the segment overall. So okay, that's it. That's all the connection.
Okay, all right. It's a 2-for-1 on today with another delightful, wonderful, insightful edition of Ben's Connection Corner. Connections in the corner with Ben. It's Ben's Connection Corner. Do.
How's it going, everybody?
Ben's Connection Corner is filmed in front of a live studio audience. All right. Anything else we want to bring up about the episode, or should we hit final thoughts and scores out of 10?
I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, just there's so much they dropped on us with this episode. And I think it's a lot.
Why don't we do super chats and then scores out of 10? Right. Super chats, the super chat segment as usual, brought to you by Joel Davis. The first up, Joel says, I think this season is a meeting in the middle. Bo-Katan embracing the traditions more while Din becomes more skeptical. Yeah, I like that. I could dig it. Get behind that idea. Joel also says, I'm still not 100% convinced the Darksaber doesn't have power, though, only because the Star Wars galaxy is a universe where magic does exist.
But only the Night Sisters have magic, and it's only on Dathomir.
And really, it's a manifestation of the Force. Like maybe it has real power. It does have real power. It's a freaking lightsaber. We've seen it cut people up. but I don't think it has some like magical call over where all Mandalorians see it and follow it. It's the same principle for me as Palpatine giving his speech in Revenge of the Sith and everybody cheering for him, and he puts his arms up like this, and some people have theorized that he's like using the Force to mind trick the senators into cheering for him, and that's what leads to Padme saying, "This is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause." The power in that scene is not the literal dark side. Palpatine's not mind tricking people. He's just brainwashed them over the course of all these years that he's been in power into thinking that he has their best interests in mind. And so people are cheering of their own volition. Of their own. They actually believe what he's saying. And I think it's the same thing with the Darksaber, where it's a symbol. People will follow the symbol, but really they're not following the symbol. They're following the person who's wielding it. They believe in the cause. They're following the cause, and they just use the Darksaber as a rallying cry. Something for the Tolkien fans. Bo-Katan is giving me Thorin Oakenshield from The Hobbit vibes this season.
I tried to forget about that movie.
I don't know what this means. I
remember those movies vividly because I didn't see them that too long ago. I don't get those vibes, but I mean, like, we're going in the freaking Mines of Mandalore, and there's Mines of Moria, so you like the Tolkien connections are all over the.
Tolkien connections are all over the place. Yes. Also, Joel says, I think Din and Bo will bring all of the Mando factions to get together to tame this creature. Maybe, but I think they're just going to tame it together themselves, and then that sort of will foreshadow them bringing together all of the different factions of the Mandalorians, which is taming a beast in and of itself.
I don't think they're going to tame it. I think Grogu will.
Ooh. Okay, see that? So Grogu is the Mandalore. Got it.
Yeah. Grogu's the real Mandalore. I like it.
That's exactly what I'm saying. That's something I was watching this episode when Din was captured and Grogu's like, he's like going up to Din like, what do I do? What do I do? I'm like, grab the Darksaber, Grogu, grab it. Like I was yelling that.
I don't know if you guys talked about this already, but I loved the scene of Bo and Grogu where she's telling him like, I met Jedi, I know them. Like
we did, yeah.
Like this is a bond you and I could have. We could talk about, we could gossip about Jedi. No, we could talk about Jedi, and I can give you my take on what they're like and which ones have the right ideas and which ones didn't. She'd be like, Obi-Wan, pretty good. Ahsoka, better. Everybody else kind of sucks. Joel also says, my hot take ending for Din's storyline is him realizing he can just be happy with Grogu and the two riding off into the sunset and not being Mandalore. Maybe after they unite the clans of Mandalore, and they can property
on Navarro that you can go back to.
Yeah, and it will be exactly this statue that Anna's holding up.
Yeah, it's my new 6-scale Hot Toys.
Oh, looks good.
Dang.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Looks good.
This is the ending we all want, right?
Yep. It's funny. Our friend Din, not to be confused with the Mandalorian. He said in a group chat that we're in that Din without his helmet, now back to talking about the character, when he's saying goodbye to Grogu, that's the real character. Dude walking around with the helmet saying, this is the way, I got to go bathe in these mines to be purified, is kind of is him, stuck in a rut, to sort of paraphrase what was actually being said. But the point is, the real Din Djarin is the dude who took off his helmet and the dude who moved heaven and earth to save Grogu, and was willing to put aside the visuals of his belief and the sort of the projections of his beliefs in order to actually fulfill the ideals behind them. And finally from Joel, despite the bumpy journey, Rebels now has a fandom just as fanatic as the Clone Wars fandom. I see more people saying Rebels is their fave than the Clone Wars today. Yeah, absolutely. Rebels absolutely has a huge fandom, and rightfully so. It's a great show. I still prefer Clone Wars, but that's not because I hate Rebels, just because I love Clone Wars.
It's just like, I think they're all running together at this point. Like, it's all like the anime shows are kind of all telling the same story. So you can kind of count them as all one big thing. But also, every generation is going to have their favorite animated show. Clone Wars was for us, but for a ton of people, Rebels is their thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, let's do some final thoughts and scores out of 10. We'll go around the table one more time. Benjamin, start us off. Final thoughts, score out of 10 for the Mines of Mandalore.
Like I said, I think this episode was epic in every sense of the word. I think it was brilliant, and it was exactly what it needed. I totally understand why the people at the premiere were like, "Oh my god," and people that watched the first episode just in their homes were like, "It was all right." Like I totally get it now, because those people at the premiere saw this episode too, and obviously you see both those back to back was amazing. And this episode this felt more like, even though I am against like doing 2 episodes premiere, I want them to string us along. These 2 episodes worked together very, very well. And this episode was especially just great all around. All the exposition we got, all the Mandalorian knowledge we got, all the backstory, having Bo-Katan back in such an active role, having Grogu in such an active role, more active he's ever been, was simply amazing. It's not without its flaws, no question about it. Like I said, there's a bit of repetitiveness. Maybe another draft of the script maybe would have fixed some of the stuff. And yeah, there's a few lines of dialogue that I'm like, ooh, yeah, this is closer to maybe Attack of the Clones than anything. But it's still great, and I love that next week we're going to continue into the Mines of Mandalore, and I cannot wait. But for this episode, I will give it a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10 from Ben. Chris, what about you? Final thoughts, score out of 10 for Chapter 18.
I think one thing that actually really hurt this episode is the fact that the Bad Batch came out the same week, and I thought the Bad Batch was way better of an episode. So it's really difficult for me to give this a high score, because like I saw like what I really wanted with the Bad Batch episode. So whereas this, I just was not as hyped for it. And I wish I was, because like, you know, I love Mandalore, and going back to Mandalore is so cool, and bringing the Mythosaur back. And there's some really cool elements in this episode, but I kind of agree with you, Dom, that it's like there was a lot to this episode that really didn't need to be there, and it just was not very tight. And usually I like these episodes being longer. Like I get disappointed when they're like 35, 40 minutes. I want them to be longer. But yeah, I really feel like the last episode should have been more than 1 episode, and then this one should have been shorter. That's how I feel. And so I just, in light of how much I felt like Bad Batch knocked it out of the park, which I'm looking forward to talking about soon on this podcast as well. Yeah, I got to give it like an 8 out of 10. Like, I feel like there's a lot of room for improvement. This could have been done a lot better. It really felt like a first, not a final draft of a script, or not a final draft of an episode. There just was some cutting and editing that needed to be done to really tighten it up and bring all the cool elements together and make it flow a little bit better. So yeah, 8 out of 10, solid, but there's a lot of things that just weren't quite there.
8 out of 10 from Chris. Anna, what about you? Your final thoughts and score out of 10 for season 3, episode 2.
So on first watch, I also watched it like 6 a.m. before work. So I was like half awake, but on first watch, I enjoyed it. Thought at the time, like, and then I rewatched it, and then I kind of saw like a bit of kind of like conversation and things like that. It was all right, and then but it put me like really excited for that we were actually at Mandalore. So I would have had it at a 9, and then the edging and tease of no Satine mention, Doc 0.5, so I give it an 8.5.
8.5. Dang. From Anna. Fair enough. Yeah.
Fair.
I'll also go with an 8. I thought there's so much strong in this episode that just gets a little bit, that just gets undermined by
Undermined.
Unintentional. But there's that gets undermined by sort of some of the weaknesses on a more on a filmmaking level, on a sort of a more base level than say the Star Wars elements of it. So it was enjoyable. There was a lot in there, but it took a while to get to that stuff, and the stuff that it took a while getting to just felt like it was just kind of there, and that the show was sort of spinning its wheels, which is not a feeling I have for the season. Like as a season, it's going pretty fast, which I think kind of says all you need to say about this episode, that it could spend half of its time spinning its wheels and yet still feel like it was moving the story forward in such a meaningful way, and also just being good. So I think an 8 is where I'll leave it. And since you all talked about all the Grogu stuff without me, I'll just say it's terrific seeing Grogu, and I like seeing him use the Force, and I like seeing a more mature Grogu. Like, there's all this BS about like how long it's been between the seasons and stuff, and like I really couldn't care less about that stuff. And yet people get really worked up about it, and then that's fair if that's how you if that's something that's important to you. That's fair, but it just isn't for me. So I just kind of it does feel like Grogu going and spending some time with Luke should impact his experience and his way of being and his life, and I feel like we actually saw that in this episode. So I thought that was really good as well. So 8 out of 10 for me. We'll go to the chat. Joel drops an 8.5 out of 10. Jeff goes with a 10 out of 10, saying, I love anything Star Wars to the maximum. Go with it, Joel. Jeff.
I love Connect Star Wars.
I do too. It's great. Matthew Hardy gives it an 8.75. Kenny goes with an 8.5. Brooke says I give it an 8.5. Episode did move a bit too fast, and it ended right when it was about to get really good.
Yeah, it could have been a 10 if it kept going. Come on,
That's it, to keep going a little bit. And the Raeside, Her to Her, gives it an 8.5 out of 10. It's really, I think, very consistent with all the scores between all of us here. We have 2 8s and I think 3 8.5s. Pretty good. All right. I do not have show notes open, so I'm just gonna vamp for a second.
The first thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about this story, this massive story.
Oh yeah. Right. So this is the story. This is that Variety dropped this week about what's going on with the Star Wars films, and we'll give you the gist of it just in case you haven't heard. The basic gist is Taika Waititi's movie is still being developed, and Taika is probably going to have a role in it, probably a substantial supporting role, I think is probably a good way to describe it. Meanwhile, the Kevin Feige movie that was happening seems to have been shelved, as has Rogue Squadron by Patty Jenkins, and that the focus right now is on the Damon Lindelof project. I feel bad calling it the Damon Lindelof project, not for any disrespect to him, but because there's like 3 other people working on it that are of equal importance. So it's Damon Lindelof, it's Justin Britt Gibson, and Sharmeen Obaid Chinoy, who are the sort of the 3 key creatives on that. They also sort of say that Rian Johnson, he wants to keep making Star Wars, and Lucasfilm still wants him to make Star Wars, but it's kind of tough for him to do it right now because he's got all these murder mysteries he's got to solve with Daniel Craig and Natasha Lyonne, and he's just stuck in the murder mystery world right now. So it might be a while. And of course, they close on
a Star Wars murder mystery,
make
Ryan.
A Star Wars one,
right?
Jeez.
Oh, there we go. Lightsabers out.
Fruit.
Yeah. And then they also drop the report that the plan is to unveil the new Star Wars movies or whatever the plans are for movies at Celebration London. I know this was a big story, and I know it really made the rounds and everybody really talked about it. I read this and said there is not a new piece of information in this story.
I was kind of agreeing, to be honest.
Yeah,
'Cause
everybody
we already knew about Rogue Squadron.
Yeah, Rogue Squadron. Yeah, we've known that for forever. And Patty basically said as much herself in that Twitter image thing she put out after all the DC stuff. Taika is still writing his movie. Well, that's what he's been doing since it was announced.
Yep.
The Lindelof project has been, kind of pushed to the front burner, and we've known that for several months. Everybody who's paying attention knows that Ryan wants to make Star Wars. Lucasfilm wants Ryan to make Star Wars, but he's just busy right now because they chickened out of making more stuff with him immediately after The Last Jedi. And the only piece of information in here that's kind of new is the Feige stuff, but that's been floating around for a while. And I'm not even talking talking about like on Reddit or anything. Like that's been alluded to in trade reports like this Variety one. So I hesitate to use this word, but I'm going to use it. This was clickbait. There's not a new piece of information in here. You can maybe go with the Feige thing, maybe. And if they had just led with that, say, okay, it's a little bit of a stretch, but okay. But everything else, including the Celebration stuff, that's been in the news for weeks now. Like I want Star Wars movies to come back. We know there have been problems getting them back, but this story just, I don't know. It felt like a cheap attempt to cash in on the fact that every story about a Star Wars movie being canceled gets an infinite number of clicks and generates all the discussion, and all of it gets linked back to Variety. And frankly, I think Variety is better than that. They don't need that sort of thing. And so I look at the story, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's nice to get an update, but the way it's presented as if all of this is new when really only a small element of it is just kind of new.
Yeah, the whole shakeup, the Star Wars shakeup, leading that with your headline, that's over dramatizing something and trying to make it seem bigger than it really is.
Well, again, like Dominic said, they're just summarizing a bunch of other things. Like it's not new. It's like a summary of different things and then adding pieces into it.
Yeah, and
which is good on the overall thing. It's good to like hear it from other source and go like, okay, there's probably more truth to this because Variety, a really good source, is saying this.
Yeah, well, as Anna just said, it's a TLDR. It's a too long didn't read of all the other stories. And if it was presented as like a Vox explainer of what's going on with the Star Wars movies, I'd be like, yeah, this is a good, solid, well-reported, fair article. Like I think the article itself is fine. Like it doesn't engage in sensationalism. It doesn't yammer on about the divided fan base and all that stuff. It drops the facts as they are. But it's maybe it's not fair to the writer because the writer of the story doesn't always write the headline. In fact, usually doesn't.
No.
But it does sort of feel like they up the sensationalization of this to generate more clicks. And I think Variety is above that. They should be better than that.
Someone's got to fix this issue because the problem is when you don't do that, everybody starts reading those other websites that shall not be named because they will do that. They will just take this same story, they will write it up again in paraphrasing, which at this point they can do with AI, and then they're going to add that title, and then everybody's going to read their article and not Variety's article. And Variety's not going to make any money, and they're going to go out of business, and then no one will be doing reporting.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's a problem with the way that the internet works. Like Reddit works on like an upvote system that's kind of smart where if people think it's a good article, they can upvote it, it can go up. The rest of the internet works on if people click it, more people see it, and that's bad. Or if people think it's dumb and they comment it's dumb, more people see it, which is also bad. So it's just a general problem with the way the internet works, and we need to take that up with Twitter and Meta and TikTok. I don't know.
Oh God. So we got to take this up with Zuck.
Yep.
Elon and the Chinese government.
Yeah,
That's just
it's
great.
their fault.
Yeah. Let's get those
The
let's get-
trifecta of just reasonable, open, down to earth people that you can just talk to and get a point across, and they'll listen and make the right choices always, right, guys?
Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, and the Chinese government walk into a bar.
Yeah, Xi Jinping. Let's get them all on a Zoom call together and sort this out.
So, guys, we've been thinking.
We've got some ideas. We need you guys to actively go against your interests of making more money and, promoting your whatever. Anyways, not going to get into it.
Everybody subscribe to Variety. I don't know if there's a way to subscribe to Variety, but if there is, maybe that'll fix this.
Yeah, I don't know. It's odd. Well, speaking of Star Wars Celebration, let's talk about that. At least I want to talk about it because I'm gonna be there.
So we know.
So we've got the celebration schedule, Ben. Schedule, especially since it's in England.
The schedule has been revealed.
I don't know. I know what that accent's supposed to be.
That was a Peter Mayhew impression, I think. I don't know.
But we got the schedule for Celebration London. This obviously isn't the whole schedule, but it does cover the three main stages: the Celebration stage, the Galaxy stage, and the Twin Suns stage. Some of the highlights include kicking things off at 11 a.m. on Friday, April 7th. That's 11 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time. That's British time. Is the Lucasfilm Studio Showcase. Star Wars Celebration returns, launching with a must-see showcase that will kick off the weekend's festivities into hyperdrive. Lucasfilm's current top crop of live-action filmmakers will be joined by a special guests. I needed to click on the thing to get the full description to discuss the many current and upcoming Star Wars adventures, including The Mandalorian, Andor, and more. So that'll kind of kick off the event from 11 to 12:30. And there's some other sort of fun panels happening on Friday. There's London Calling, Star Wars design production in the UK, which I think is one of the great things about having a celebration in London, is that they've made so much Star Wars over there. They can get just the people that have worked on the new movies and the old movies in there. There's also going to be on Friday a making of Andor season 1 panel featuring Tony Gilroy and Diego Luna. That's at 3 p.m. local time. That's pretty cool. Saturday kicks off with the big Ahsoka panel at 11 a.m. on the Celebration stage, featuring Dave Filoni, Jon Favreau, and special guests. I have a feeling those special guests will include Rosario Dawson and Natasha Liu Bordizzo at the very least. We got some other stuff. We got things like concept art panel. We got a High Republic panel, 40th anniversary Return of the Jedi panel. Cool things happening on Friday. On Saturday. There's some pretty good stuff happening there, including a screening of Star Wars Young Jedi Adventures. You can check that out before it drops on May 4th.
Could you?
Yeah, no, sadly not.
Not that Young Jedi Adventures.
No, different one. All right, in the evening on Saturday, on the Celebration stage, from 5:30 to 6:30. Is the 50th anniversary of the Clone Wars panel, which sounds good. It's got great people on it. But I've got a source that tells me there's actually going to be a bigger, better panel happening at the same time on the fan stage. And I won't say too much. I can't give it away. All this stuff is top secret information. I can't divulge my sources, but I will say that this panel will feature some familiar faces to those of you that listen and watch the show, as well as some very exciting Star Wars authors. So details to follow, but maybe don't ink the Clone Wars 50th anniversary screening or 50th anniversary panel into your schedules just yet, because there might be something else you want to do at that same time. And like, let's be honest, they did the 10th anniversary panel at San Diego Comic-Con. It's not going to top that. They announced the show was coming back. They're not going to do that again.
So my question is,
season 8, yay!
if we don't go to the 15th year anniversary panel, does that mean it's still the 14th year and I don't have to get my phone and be like, hello, AARP, I need to apply for my card?
Exactly. Yes, correct. So yeah, I'm hoping I'll have more to say next week about this other thing. So stay tuned. And then you can decide for yourself. And if you still decide to go to the Clone Wars 15th anniversary panel, honestly, I won't blame you. But this other thing's going to be really good too, I swear. Kicking off Sunday, I'm really excited about this. Villains of the Sequel Trilogy, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. local time on the Celebration stage, featuring Ian McDiarmid, Andy Serkis, and Gwendolyn Christie.
Nice.
Love it.
Yeah.
One thing I've felt that has been sorely lacking from the last couple of celebrations is celebrity panels. And so to get 3 big ones like that all together, I like it. I think that's a really cool choice that they made, and a really cool thing to do at a Star Wars celebration. Following in that same in those footsteps at 1:30, a look back at Obi-Wan Kenobi featuring Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen, Indira Varma, Vivian Lyra Blair, and Deborah Chow. So we got the crew making Obi-Wan Kenobi back together. That'll be a terrific time. And again, actually getting, the big stars on a pre-planned panel like this,
It's almost like they're in London filming season 2.
But Hayden and Ewan were at Celebration Anaheim last year, and they showed up on a couple of panels, but they were always a surprise, quote unquote. Like they were at the Lucasfilm Showcase. That surprised absolutely no one, but it wasn't announced that they were going to be there. They then also made an appearance at the 20th anniversary of Attack of the Clones panel, which was more of a surprise because there were already so many people on that panel. But now, if you want to see those two, and Indira and Vivian and Deborah, you can go to this panel, and it's also going to be streamed to the various to the Galaxy stage and the Twin Sun stage as well.
Cool.
So that's what we got there. We've also the kind of the to close out the show on Monday, because the celebration goes Friday to Monday at 11 a.m. on the Celebration stage. Star Wars: The Bad Batch, featuring Brad Rao, Jennifer Corbett, Athena Portillo, D. Bradley Baker, and Michelle Ang. So the key creatives and the stars of the show. And look, Star Wars Bad Batch Season 2 has been in the can for a long time. And I'm under the impression that all those people are still working over there at Lucasfilm.
They're all on Twitter, and they all seem very excited when every episode comes out. I feel like they wouldn't have that enthusiasm if the show had been canceled.
Yeah.
Also, in every instance of an animated show thus far, they have told us ahead of time when the last season is going to be. So
yeah,
that's true.
I think season 3 is guaranteed almost.
Well, so the season finale, the 2-part finale, airs on March 29th. This panel is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 days later. I think we can sit in the quote unquote mystery of whether or not there's a third season for 12 days. Or they can say, hey, there's a third season, and oh, by the way, here's your first look at it, or your first look at it will come at Star Wars Celebration.
That makes sense.
Either or is completely
and I wonder if we're going to get it sooner than expected, being that season 2 was kind of sitting and waiting for such a long time.
It wouldn't shock me. Would not shock me. Also on Monday, Star Wars Visions Volume 2 is going to take the Celebration stage, and there will be producers and filmmakers from a whole bunch of the studios that are working on Visions Volume 2. That was I went to the Volume 1 panel at Celebration Anaheim, and it was a great time. But the one criticism I had was it was Lucasfilm people and English language voice actors, and all we got from the Japanese studios were like hello videos, and that probably had a lot to do with travel and COVID and all that stuff. So I'm really excited to see that the studios are going to get their love at Celebration London. Is probably, this is where my ignorance of the rest of the world comes through as a Westerner. I don't really know if it's easier to get from Japan to London.
I don't think it is.
But also, Visions Volume 2 is not just Japan.
That's right. It's all these other
world.
countries.
So it's easier.
So that's probably why.
It is easier to get from France.
Yes.
Or Ireland.
Yes.
To England than it is to Los Angeles. So.
Yeah.
All right, so those are sort of the big panels. There's more that have been announced that you can check out on Star Wars Celebration.com. And as I said, there's more panels to come for all the other stages that are yet to be announced. Like I keep saying the full schedule is revealed. I'm like, I know for a fact it has not.
No, like there was no big things on Sunday, really.
I mean, Bad Batch and Visions are kind of the last. That's sort of what it was in Anaheim. It was Bad Batch on the last day, and Sunday. Sorry, no, you're right. I keep thinking Sunday's the last day.
No, Monday's the last day. So Sunday, there's this big hole of like we don't know quite what's happening.
Yeah, it's got a Disney Parks panel, and those two look back panels. I think are kind of the centerpieces of that. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be cool. Also announced related to Star Wars Celebration, there will be a live stream.
Oh,
there was panic.
That.
There was panic that there wouldn't be. Panic.
I had my finger hovering over the create petition button. I was that passionate about that.
Oh yeah, it would have been wrong if there wasn't one. But I always, there was somebody asked like a Reed Pop customer service agent if there was going to be one, and they said no, and I'm like, this decision does not come from Reed Pop. They have no reason to know this. This sort of thing comes from Lucasfilm.
Also, you can go to Celebration and go up to one of the security guards or whatever and ask them, hey, is there a Star Wars convention happening right now? Like, I don't know. Like that's how disconnected some people are.
Man.
Yeah. Well, and again, there's I think people are jumping to a lot of conclusions about this live stream because I keep seeing where people say they're not streaming the panels. And I don't see where that says. They admittedly they don't explicitly say they're streaming the panels.
Well,
but I gotta think. Have you got something, Anna?
Okay, so when I first read it, it said the Star Wars live stage, which was that one stage, last year at Celebration where like at random times of the day, you have, your celebs coming out and doing a little interview and stuff. So that was my first thought when I read that. And then someone else told me, oh no, they're streaming the panels, but I didn't bother to actually like look again and see.
Yeah, so in previous years they had they streamed panels and they streamed stuff from that stage. Mm-hmm. Now, I will say, admittedly, last year they streamed less panels than they normally do.
Right.
And they didn't stream some of the big ones. And I think that's a disappointment. I think that they should stream the big ones. But I have to think they will stream at least some panels, whether they're the ones that you want them to or not, like the showcase and that sort of thing. I don't know, but I feel like you'll get, at the very least, you'll get like the an ILM panel will be streamed and that sort of thing.
It's disappointing from so many different angles because I don't know what they're like. You can assume that like, oh, they're thinking, oh, well, people won't come here to the live stream, which is not true at all. And like, if you're there at Celebration, like, you can't go to every panel. So it's really nice to have everything live streamed so you can go home and go like, well, I missed the Ahsoka panel, but I can go home and watch it. Like, I understand like keep if you want to keep something exclusive, show a clip and don't show it to the live stream, but like let people watch the panels. Like, come on.
Yeah. Put up a Star Wars Celebration will return in, and then a countdown thing during the clips. And look, I'll eat my words if this turns out that they don't stream the panels, but I think there will.
I'm going to change.org right now. I'm going to get it set up. Okay.
I'll eat my words. I will gladly come on here and admit that I was wrong, but I think they'll stream some panels again. If they're the ones you want, the ones you really want, I don't know, but they should.
Please.
Should.
For the children.
Yes. The Star Wars Celebration Live, the stream will be hosted. We got Anthony Carboni, former The Star Wars Show host, Christina Ariel, current host of the High Republic Show, Kristen Baver, the host of This Week in Star Wars, and friend of this show, Jamie Stangroom. He also made the Stormtrooper Who Hit His Head documentary a couple of years ago. So check that out. Okay, I think that's where we can leave it. It's after midnight. I think.
I think we need to go 3 more hours and discuss all the news. I really do.
We have one last super chat to get to before we close from Joel Davis, thinking if the Lindelof project is as ready as some places say it is. My biggest worry, honestly, would be how the writer's strike would affect things if it begins filming. Hopefully, if it's true.
And Joel also pointed me in the direction of a rumor that states that basically the Lindelof project is ready to go, cast and everything. So my response to that was they'll all be there at Celebration. They're going to give us a title and they're going to roll out the cast on stage. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Meet all of these new people and Daisy Ridley. It's in London. That's her home. Just say, Daisy, come on down.
Take the tube.
Yeah, you're just gonna see all these different Rey with the goggles cosplayers, and one of them's her.
That's a really good Rey. You look just like Daisy.
Sounds
Wait a minute.
Oh man, good stuff. All right. That's it. That's enough. We've done enough on this episode, and we can begin to wrap things up for this week.
So we'll be back very soon with another episode talking about the Bad Batch. I don't think we've 100% decided on a time and day yet, but as soon as we do, we'll let you know when it will be. And where you can get that information is by following us at the SWU on your favorite social media network. Thank you everybody for watching so much. Dominic, thank you for making it.
I'm glad I could make it, and it was great fun to be here for this discussion. And I look forward to being proved wrong about Jon Favreau and his writing. I hope that the next 6 episodes are as tight as possible and the best episodes of Star Wars we've ever seen. I look forward to being wrong about that, and I very much hope I'm not wrong about the Celebration live stream and the panels, because I would hate to be wrong about that, not just because I hate being wrong, as everybody does, but because that would suck for everybody who's not going to be there. And I really hope that the people who are experiencing CouchCon have a fun time too, even if you can't be there with us in the UK there, eating fish and chips and talking about the jolly old Star Wars.
CouchCon, this is at like 3 a.m. for me. I'm gonna be in bed.
Yeah, well, you know what? I saw some West Coast people complaining about that fact that they didn't do these panels later in the day so that they could it could be easier for them. I'm like, you guys get The Mandalorian at midnight. We get The Mandalorian at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Welcome to my world. You guys can deal with this for a change.
Yeah. I mean, I still will probably be awake in bed watching,
exactly,
and that is fine, but probably not on the couch.
Yeah. Well, probably if I were in that situation, what I would do is I would just get through my day how I would normally do it, and then I would come home, I would plant my butt in front of the TV or in front of my computer, and I would just take the live stream back to 0000 and hit play and just watch it from start to finish and just experience Celebration that way.
Just turn off Twitter.
Yeah, but that's not how I'm going to experience it, because I'm going to be there. I'm leaving in less than a month. It's crazy.
So you can follow Dominic's journey at DominicJ25 across the pond. I'm sure there'll be lots of updates of ocean and more pictures of ocean.
No, I'm not posting. I'm going to London. I'm not posting pictures of the ocean.
But the ocean is between you and London.
I can't post pictures from the plane. I'm not paying for plane Wi-Fi.
That is
No. You don't. You take a picture every 5 minutes while you're in that plane. Then when you get off that plane, you post them to Instagram. Okay, you got it?
No. No. This isn't your connection corner, Ben. You can't tell me what to do.
There will be content on at DominicJ25. We just don't know what the content's going to be yet. It's a surprise.
Just like whether the Celebration live stream is streaming panels or not.
There we go.
I'm fairly confident about what it will be, but you never know.
Okay. Sounds great. Make sure you follow him. You can follow me at Seek3PO. Anna, thank you so much for being on this very fun and chaotic episode.
Thanks for having me. It was great and fun.
Do you want to tell everybody about the other podcast that you do?
Oh, yeah. I am part of a podcast called Tales from Beyond the Galaxy. We're on Instagram. We usually stream Wednesday nights, 7:30 Central Time, 8:30 Eastern on Twitch. All of our information mostly on our Instagram, Beyond the Galaxy Pod on Instagram, or you can just follow me. I also post stuff there too on my personal ZOMG Anna LOLZ. But yeah, just fun stuff. Just finishing up Last of Us content right now. So if you're into the Mushroom People show, come check it out.
Awesome. Check that out. And once again, that's ZOMG Anna with 2 N's, LOLZ is her handle. Ben, thank you so much for hosting as well.
Oh, this was a pleasure as always. More Mando, just continuing on. I love this Mando time of year. It's gonna be great, and I cannot wait to talk more about it next week.
Fantastic. You can follow Ben at Ben Hart with no E. Don't forget to punch that subscribe button on YouTube. Thanks to Joel for super chatting with us tonight. And thanks to all our channel members who make this show possible. Also, don't forget to subscribe and review on your favorite podcast app. And don't forget to join the SWU Network Discord, where you can join the game night. We have that coming up on Friday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, where we're going to be playing Fall Guys. Super excited about that. Now that is a chaotic time. All right, so that's it. We'll be back soon. Until then, for Ben and Dominic and Anna and all their fantastic contributors we have here at the Star Wars Underworld, my name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
It's a wrap.
Way.